Hey y'all, it's your friendly neighborhood therapist. And listen, I want y'all to pay attention to the story I'm about to tell y'all because I was utterly shocked. I did not know that this happened so much. And I'm just sitting here like, what the hell? So, anyway, this is Alondria Seaborn and her daughter Jaira. Now, her and her husband Quentin brought this beautiful little girl into the world September 7th, 2024. She was taken from them November 16th, 2024. All because they were accused of abusing this baby, when in reality, there was a medical condition that mimics abuse, and doctors didn't do their job and thoroughly examine this child before taking her, before calling CPS. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about this story, but let me just say this. This happens a lot more than I was aware of. I did not know that people were out here making wrongful CPS claims this often. I did not know that this many children were being snatched out of their parents' arms off of false allegations when medical evidence proves otherwise. I didn't know this was happening like this. You want to read more stories about this? The group that really advocates and speaks on these stories is called Parents Behind The Pinwheels, and they have a TikTok page, Parents Behind The Pinwheels. So many stories of people of all different races, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, who have had their children literally taken from them because doctors claimed that the baby was being abused when medical evidence proves otherwise. But anyway, back to this family. I'm going to just read y'all a little bit of their story, okay? So Jaira was born September 7th, 2024, weighing 6 pounds. And as a first time mom, Alondria was exclusively pumping just because she struggled to latch. Listen, if you don't know about breastfeeding and the struggles that they can cause, go look into that. Okay, I'm not going to use this to really go into that, but she was struggling to latch, so she had to pump and bottle feed her. But Alandria was only producing 50 to 70 ounces of milk per day, which made it difficult for the baby to gain weight. So their pediatrician suggested that they adjust how they were feeding her. They followed every medical recommendation, but it was still hard for the baby to gain weight. So she was still 8 pounds at 10 weeks. So it was suggested that they see a lactation consultant to see if she could now latch. They went on November 13th, and Jaira latched easily with a nipple guard. This was great. Thought everything would be okay. But she was instructed to stop pumping to lower her milk supply because when you lower it, you end up with more fat in the milk, which is what the baby needed. So on November 16th, while she was nursing her with a nipple guard, she had a sudden letdown, which is a sudden rush of a lot of milk. Jaira had dozed off, so she began to choke, and she quickly moved her to help her breathe, and she let out a cry, calmed down almost immediately. So she thought, okay, good, whew, everything's fine. However, later that night, when her and her husband Quentin were getting her ready for bed, they noticed that her left arm went limp, so they rushed her to Dallas Children's Hospital. Keep note of the hospital. So here's where things went left. At the hospital, doctors found a fractured humerus and then told them that Jaira also had multiple healing rib fractures, something they had no knowledge of. Instead of investigating further, they immediately accused them of child abuse. Now, they begged the doctors to look further, but they refused. Jaira's blood work showed an 8.5 vitamin D level, which is severely deficient, a 1,153 alkaline phosphatase level, which is high, indicating bone turnover, a 110 parathyroid hormone level, which is abnormally high. All of these results pointed to a serious metabolic or bone disorder, but the doctors dismissed them, stating that labs don't explain fractures. Instead of searching for the answers, they called CPS and Mansfield PD. The hospital didn't even wrap this baby's arm until they had been there for almost 24 hours. So now, without an investigation, CPS took this baby from her parents at only 2 months old. And that same night, they were forced to leave the hospital without her. Later, they discovered that the affidavit submitted by the child abuse doctor at the Dallas Children's Hospital falsely claimed that Jaira had a subdural hematoma, which is a serious brain bleed. That was used against them in court. However, that same doctor later admitted in court that that information was false. So a doctor falsified a legal medical document, lied and said this baby had a subdural hematoma when she didn't. Now, despite all this pain of separation, they sought a second opinion at Scottish Rite Hospital. But that doctor had ties to Dallas Children's and refused to even examine the baby. She remained in her car seat for the entire appointment. The next day, they saw their pediatrician, who was much more thorough. She immediately recognized that something was wrong, prescribed Gyra vitamin D supplements, and recommended that they see an endocrinologist. She also advised them to supplement her breast milk with goat milk formula to help Gyra get the additional nutrients her body desperately needed. The endocrinologist diagnosed Gyra with neonatal nutritional rickets, which is a bone disorder caused by severe vitamin D deficiency. The endocrinologist also confirmed that rickets causes bone fragility and weak bones that fracture easily. But even with this medical proof that her fractures were due to her fragility, CPS refused to drop the case. To make matters worse, on November 25th, she received a call from a detective telling her she had 24 hours to turn herself in. She was arrested and charged with a felony for injury to a child neglect, all because she couldn't explain the rib fractures. So she went to Tarrant County Jail. Her husband and mother got together the money to bond her out, and they found a lawyer for the CPS case. That lawyer was good, but was not familiar with medical cases such as theirs. She was released on bond the next day, but the damage was already done. Her name has now been tied to a felony charge that she does not deserve. Now, be clear, medical experts have confirmed thoroughly that this is not abuse. They need a stronger legal defense. They've hired an attorney specializing in cases like theirs and brought in top medical experts, including a pediatric radiologist and a child abuse pediatrician. And these two professionals testified that Gyra's rib fractures did not follow a pattern of abuse. Some of her ribs were skipped, which is inconsistent with squeezing. Her first rib was fractured, which is never linked to child abuse. And given her low vitamin D and lab results, the first step should have been an endocrinology consult, not a CPS call. Despite all this, they still in a legal battle, y'all. The next court date is March 24th. These people need help. What they are needing now is more expert testimony and to cover the legal fees that are definitely mounting up because they are innocent based off of evidence. This is insane. I didn't know that this happened this much. And I mean, it happens a lot. If y'all go to that page I suggested, Parents Behind the Pinwheel, this happens a lot. Across racial lines, across cultural lines, across socioeconomic lines. This happens a lot. Can you imagine getting your baby snatched when you didn't do anything wrong and medical doctors can prove you didn't do anything wrong, but they call CPS first? Then I was unaware. When your baby is in the hospital and they assume abuse, you automatically lose your parental rights. You automatically lose them. Some of these babies are in foster care because they will not allow them to be given to another family member. You know how traumatic this is for a child? And mind you, some of these kids are infants that won't remember this. There are toddlers and older kids being snatched from their families because of this. This is, I'm just, so how can we help? First things first is exactly what I'm doing, which is what a lot of y'all need to do. Share this story, spread awareness, make a video about it, do whatever to get the message out there. And like I said, not just for this family, there are tons of families on that page that are going through this same thing. So share the story because awareness is power. I always tell y'all to bring awareness to situations and to advocate are one of the best ways you as an individual can do something to help and to make change. Okay? Donate. They do have a GoFundMe. I will put that information in the caption. They need, like, legal fees are no joke. All they want is their baby back. They shouldn't even be going through this. So to donate is definitely needed and necessary. Right now, they have raised $15,945 of their $50,000 goal. Their GoFundMe is legit. And they also have their Cash App listed on the GoFundMe as well, just in case anybody wants to do it that way. I will put that information in the caption as well. Then lastly, they are just asking for prayer and support. Like, I have never in my life heard no mess like this. I just don't understand. How can you immediately jump to abuse when there are medical conditions that mimic abuse and you as a doctor should know that before you go ruining people's lives? I don't understand. But get this story shared. Go to that Parents Behind the Pinwheel page and share other stories. Share all the stories. I'm going to share a bunch of them. I'm going to try to share as many as I can every day because I don't understand this. I don't understand this at all, especially given that in cases of real abuse, CPS act like they can't do nothing. There have been so many stories of real abuse happening to children and they get returned to those abusive parents. I know one personally where I live right now. They keep giving that little girl back and she don't need to be in that house. But you want to take babies and children away from parents who haven't done anything and it can be proven that they didn't do anything. Our system is really jacked up. Our system is really, really jacked up if things like this keep happening. Then also, I understand this is happening to parents of all races and backgrounds, but we also will not ignore that medical racism is a thing too. This family is in Texas. They are a black family. Of course, your immediate thought would be they abused this baby. I'm not saying that that's the case or how much that played into it. I'm just bringing it up for context because it could be valid. Now, that being said, share this, donate if you can, and just pray for this family. This is ridiculous. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will holler at y'all later.